Hello. I don't know whether or not you saw the pictures, or there may have been some video and YouTube stuff of Prince Charles opening the National Memorial to the Police yesterday, and Boris struggling with his umbrella, and the policeman standing behind, looking in a way which I can only describe as indulgent. The sort of way a parent would look on a small boy, a wayward boy, who's struggling with his toys. And Priti Patel was also there. Now the problem is there's a lot of negative information coming out about the police and about the Home Office. I must say I'm contributing to that. I thought it might be interesting today to try and dissect some of that, to look at some of the facts behind these stories, because it's not all Daleks and Doctor Who, and Priti Patel's incompetence, so I think that has quite a lot to do with it. Let's start with Manchester. 80,000 crimes apparently were not recorded in Manchester, so if you were a victim of crime in Manchester and you reported it, the chances are nobody did anything. That's a shocking indictment of our police force. And then in May, the man down the road from me, the Chief Constable of Northamptonshire, a fellow called Nick Adderley, complained about the people who were applying to become the new police officers. He said many of them were very young and they were a bit taken aback. Hello, Bay. They're a bit taken aback at the role they had to play. And he said they had no life experience and they were really surprised when they were asked to do all-nighters and to work at weekends. I would have thought anybody who had looked at Dixon of Dock Green would have known these were part of the standard requirement for policing in this country. So what Nick Adderley is saying is that the wrong people are applying, and those people who are applying are unaware of their responsibilities. The problem is, I think, for the police, is that during the period of the pandemic, they have policed with a certain amount of disregard for ordinary people. There are so many stories of ordinary people being treated appallingly, and I'm sure this isn't the intention of the police, and it's not just the police who have done this, it's also the government. So they're taking their direction from the appalling people who are governing with knee-jerk, I don't think we need all that word, attitudes. Think, for example, of this story about Marta and Radek Kotlarek. Radek is an IT consultant, and they were having a dreadful time during the pandemic. Crises at home in Poland, and they couldn't go home to sort them out or to lend support because of the pandemic and the restrictions on travel. So, as a stress release, they took a day off or an afternoon off and went to the beach and they bought an ice cream. And they were approached by the police, and this led to an arrest. It led to a strip search on the beach. This couple have been on the beach in Talaika in Wales. They were taken to the local police station, and Radek was handcuffed, though he hadn't resisted arrest. I don't understand how that happens. He was suffering bereavement at home, at his home in Poland. They were trying to do homeschooling in the UK. They were dealing with extreme forms of the stress that we've all been facing during the pandemic, but theirs was extreme. And what they got from the police was what I can only describe as a form of bullying. because there was nothing that Radek and his wife had done that was wrong. In the process of being examined in the police station, Radek was strip searched, and he was threatened by the police that if he didn't take off his clothes there and then, they would remove his clothes with a pair of scissors. This is shocking. And then we look at the police boss, the ultimate boss. That's Priti Patel. She's somebody on record with accusations of bullying. It seems fairly well-founded accusations of bullying. But the Prime Minister doesn't seem to think that matters. So that's a message which is passed through her department and the people who work for her, that bullying presumably is acceptable. Now we're starting to sniff out the real problems. And then we can look at even more extreme examples. We've got a fellow, what's his name, Wayne Couzens, this policeman who kidnapped, it seems, or allegedly kidnapped, I think he's pleaded guilty now, to kidnapping and murdering Sarah Everard. We remember all the stories about her body being found. But then it's taken months before he's held his hands up and said that he is going to plead guilty. Now, who is he? He's a serving officer, or at least he was a serving officer who was actually part of the parliamentary and diplomatic protection unit. He had a gun. He was armed and he was trusted by the highest authorities in our land. And yet, we learn that in 2015, he was seen in a car, naked from the waist down. I had to read that twice, naked from the waist down. Well, it beggars belief, and apparently, even with that description, he should have been identified by the police as a serving officer. So at that point, he should have been identified as a sex offender, and yet the police seem very reluctant to look at themselves clearly. You can think of the Rabbi Burns poem about a louse with a great line, to see ourselves as others see us. It's a very difficult thing to learn how to do. But if you are in power, if you command a huge number of people, then maybe the first thing you need to learn before you assume that mantle of power is to see yourself as others see you. Maybe this is something that Priti Patel particularly should start to do. I know how I see Priti Patel. Sorry, I can't resist it. So a good reputation starts with introspection, with being able to see yourself. So if we want a good or a better police force, we need to start with its boss. And if she is incapable of recognizing when it's time to go, then we cannot hold the police force to a higher standard than we hold its boss. Ideally, our expectation of anybody in public office is simple. That we want them to be the best. And our legacy is that we want people to be better than us. So if we have a situation where a police force is emasculated by its leadership, then we have poor direction for the future, and the future becomes very uncertain. So it doesn't matter then, at that point, how much we look back and erect monuments to those brave, valiant individuals who gave their life to safeguard our freedoms. Yes, they did. but their sacrifice is made pointless by the arrogance and stupidity and self-serving interests of the people who are running the Home Office, or that one individual who's running the Home Office, and of people in the police force who don't seem to have got their act together. Now, let's go back to Nick Adderley. Well, I understand his concerns, but should he ever have voiced them? Rather than voicing those concerns, he should have been making sure that the right people are recruited, and that even if the wrong people are recruited, even if people are naive and don't know quite what they're in for, they should be introduced to that. They should be properly trained. What I worry about most of all, is that we have a culture of bullying which has come down from the top. We have a culture of knee-jerk responses and a culture of dictating to other people what we cannot do ourselves. And this, I think, is all the responsibility of Priti Patel. So it would be great, I think, just my personal opinion, if Priti Patel went, and if we could clean our house and put our faith and put our trust in these people who traditionally have been there to protect our society and to make our society better. We need to trust the police. Actually, we also need to trust the government. That means we need a good government, we need a good opposition. I'm increasingly impressed, by the way, by Keir Starmer. I know he's getting a bit of bad press at the moment, but I'm going to do a little thing about Keir Starmer in the next few days, because I think he's somebody that we can get behind. Do follow my channel, and do ring the bell down there. Ring the bell. Have fun. Bye-bye.